Ryan Huska confirmed that the Flames will have a captain ahead of the regular season.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I'm your host, Jess Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me here today as we talk about the top 3 candidates for Flames captaincy now that we are in August and have official confirmation. Make sure you are subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube as well. We are rolling into, I would say, the final stretch of the dog days of summer here. And, news is finally starting to come out of Calgary. Ryan Huska took some time to talk to the media and really emphasized that they're going to have a captain this season, and it's going to be to start the season. So we're not going to be looking at a situation where they just go into it and it's like a Flames hockey for your life challenge and you just kind of have to give your best performance. Otherwise, you don't get named captain. I really think that the Flames were onto something last year when they said they desperately needed a captain. They needed an established and distinguished leader in the locker room to go toe-to-toe with Sutter. And I don't necessarily think that a captain just has to be, there for the negative things. They're kind of the person that, of course, does have to step up in those moments, but there's definitely the pride in being a captain, and having someone you can turn to, I think, is a really big part of the game. And knowing that you have someone directly in your locker room that will go to bat for you, and their voice and their say really holds a bit of weight. I really appreciated how Ryan Huska said that this will be a management and coaching decision. I think that it's important that it comes from the people that, have boots on the ground, and not some old man in a mansion that I don't know when the last time he set foot in the Saddle Dome was. But we have a very established top 3 candidates, I would say, for this position. I would say Jonathan Huberdeau, Mackenzie Weegar, and Rasmus Andersson are your top 3. 2 months ago, things looked a little different, and I did an episode all about Backlund being the next captain of the Flames and how it made the most sense because he was going toe-to-toe with Daryl Sutter. He's been with the organization his entire career. He's going to know it better than anyone else, inside and out, but it doesn't look like he's staying. It doesn't look like he even wants the captaincy. It was apparently on the table with a contract extension, and he said, I don't know. I got to think about it. I think that it is very important for the Flames to go into this season, like I said, with an established leader. You have a new coach. He's green. This is his first NHL head coaching position, and this is pretty much a whole new group. You're bringing up guys that have minimal NHL experience, and you have your mix of veterans who can, help guide those children, but you have a very difficult task. You have a tall task on your hands to, not have a repeat of last year. And we've talked about a lot this summer how bad it would have, how horribly wrong things would have to go in order to have a repeat of last year. And there are very small chances of that ever happening just because of the extremes of last season. And it is unlikely to repeat those extremes, good or bad. But to me, a captain is someone who is committed and dedicated to your team. It is not someone that is being offered the captaincy as kind of not a bribe, but as a prize for signing an extension. Even if you did give Backlund the captaincy, would he, finish out would he even finish out his contract? He probably would, but would you feel comfortable with him being the leader of this group, knowing that he has been kind of standing halfway out the door this entire offseason? And he did that interview with Swedish media basically saying that he isn't interested in staying in Calgary for a while. Like, he doesn't really say or bleed, dedication and certainty. And that's not me knocking Backlund. I think that Backlund is a great guy, but there are extenuating circumstances right now that just kind of push for him to not be captain. And that's why Rasmus Andersson, Mackenzie Weegar, and Jonathan Huberdeau are your prime candidates. These are such like an established and separated group, like just a step ahead of everyone else because of those leadership qualities. And we're going to talk more about it coming up next, obviously, and why you have to have certain qualities. And one of those qualities isn't being the best player on your team. Coming up next, we are going to talk about Rasmus Andersson and his journey to potential captaincy and why he may be candidate number 1 for head coach Ryan Huska. But before we do that, let me talk to you about FanDuel. Football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long, because right now when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you will get bonus bets for every victory. You can use bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. It is much appreciated. Make sure that you are subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you're listening to this show. I hope that you stick around for the off season and, come back during the fun times when there's actual hockey to talk about. But to me, Ryan Huska and Rasmus Andersson obviously have an established relationship. Okay, take a shot every time I say established in this episode. My goodness. But Rasmus Andersson and Ryan Huska, they go back, right? And it's not just, he coached him briefly here and, Andersson didn't really do anything. No, Ryan Huska saw a lot of potential in Andersson in the AHL, and Huska rode him hard to turn him into a player that we're seeing today and that still has the potential to grow. Rasmus Andersson did an interview earlier this season talking about how Huska, played hardball with him because he was out of shape, he was lazy, and he was slow, and he just had an attitude. And you're probably like, well, why would you want someone like that to be a captain? If you're new here, that is like 19-year-old Rasmus Andersson, age-appropriate behavior for someone that just got drafted into the NHL, right? Now we are watching a 24, 25-year-old man out on the ice, and he truly bleeds Calgary Flame. I would say he bleeds red, but I mean, we all bleed red. He is the heartbeat of this team. I think that Matthew Tkachuk passed this heart onto Andersson, and I think Rasmus Andersson always had it in him. It just came out and shined like the top of the Chrysler building last year, and it needed to, because last season was not easy. Last season was absolutely brutal. And how many times are we going to say that it was Rasmus Andersson answering those hard questions in the media availability post games? It was him talking and saying, yeah, like, we can't win. Like, that's unfortunately, that's what it is. And he took accountability, probably for things that he didn't even need to take accountability for. But that's what a good leader does, is, they take the brunt of things because someone has to. And it's going to look better for a veteran to take it rather than one of the new guys, With Andersson being the next captain, I think you have someone that is signed for a decent amount of time, I would say. He is signed through the end of 2027. And to me, he is an underdog. He is someone that is so easy to root for because, like I just said, he was a out of shape, lazy, attitude brat kid when Ryan Huska met him. And he's shed that personality. He has shed that skin and is like a whole new person. And I think that is so important because when you can reflect in yourself and say, I see that in this kid, and I'm going to tell him that if I can snap out of those bad habits, so can he. And it just comes down to wearing that letter on your chest, right? You can be that person without being named the captain. But I think Rasmus Andersson just exudes leadership in every way, shape, and form. I think that he is someone that is highly respected in the locker room. I think that, probably in the next few years, we're going to see him finally getting serious consideration for the Norris Trophy. To me, he is someone that works hard, keeps his nose to the grindstone, is never really involved in anything where I'm like, can you please trade this man before I say something out of pocket? I think for Rasmus Andersson, he is someone that is physical, he is dominant, and then you get to see that soft side to him when his son's around in interviews, or if you follow his wife on social media, you get to see dad. You get to see Rasmus Andersson as a dad and just as a human being, and not as a scary defenseman that you were not wanting to play against, right? But again, it comes down to the accountability, and your captain never has to be your best player. Sometimes it just is that way. I mean, look at Edmonton, right? And it's going to be exciting regardless of who takes, who fills this role as the captain. I think it would have been Matthew Tkachuk after Gio had he decided to stay long-term. And like I mentioned a few minutes ago, Rasmus Andersson has that energy and that dedication and the passion, the absolute passion for Calgary Flames hockey. And that is so important for morale, for those games where you got the absolute crap kicked out of you and it was a potential, game-changing game or whatever the case may be. You have to have someone who can still get you going again and be like, okay, we're on to the next one. We learned we're going to watch film tomorrow. What are you going to do differently? And what am I going to do differently? Because I'm not just placing the blame on you. And I really feel like Rasmus Andersson is just the life of the party. That we might not get to see it, but he definitely has that fun energy to him. And obviously he's high energy. He's a hockey player. He has to be. But Ryan Huska does have an established and determined prior relationship with Rasmus Andersson, which makes me really believe that it's a strong possibility that Rasmus Andersson is one of the finalists for Flames captaincy. And that's exciting. And this isn't a nepotism thing. This is something that Andersson has earned. I don't think that he was quiet in the locker room last year, and he certainly wasn't with the media. Someone had to take it, and he did. He went out there and owned that the team was not good on multiple occasions. And you have to, again, just possess these qualities of exemplary leadership and knowing that you are looked upon and respected and people want to go to you for advice, right? Like they want to turn to you and have you speak for them. You have to have their trust. And what's one thing that the Flames organization has needed to work on since the end of the season? Trust. Because who couldn't they trust? Their head coach. So Rasmus Andersson, regardless, he'll be wearing a C on his chest this season. But is he the next captain of the Calgary Flames? Please let me know in the comments. And coming up next, we're going to talk about the other top 2 candidates here on Locked On Flames for your Flames captaincy. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out and listening, watching, tuning into Locked On Flames as we just kind of talk about the captaincy and what does it take and what kind of resume do you have to have in order to be in this final round of just picks a captain. Could you imagine one day getting like a DM from the Flames Twitter account and being like, hey, you've been selected for a panel to be part of this committee and the Flames organization really likes what you do. Here's a vote. Here's a Zoom link. People want to hear what you have to say. Like there have been times where this is the thing, not to that same effect, but where fans do get to have a say. Do I think the fans should necessarily get to pick a captain? Absolutely not. I think that could go very south for a number of reasons. But to me, Weegar and Huberdeau are fan favorites. They won over the city of Calgary last season, coming in after the Flames lost 2 of their elite wingers, right? 2 very elite players. And they had a tall order ahead of them. And it wasn't all that good, was it? Obviously, you have Jonathan Huberdeau's performance and him falling off and just kind of getting acclimated to Calgary. And Mackenzie Weegar, I feel like it took him a little while to get going as well. But both of these guys have played through some very, very tough years in Florida. And they made it out of last season in Calgary. And they went on to talk to the media and to own not their piece, but to speak for the team and to share stories of what was going on, right? It gives us an inside look at what's happening. And it's not just gossip. It's not just speculation. And it's coming straight from the player's mouth. And that's what you need. You need a player, like in a captain, from a public relations standpoint, you need a player that can go out there and do lip service for you. The same way Ryan Huska is doing lip service with Calgary media. And that is just part of the business. It's not a bad thing. Sometimes it is, yes, but we don't have time to do PR 101 today. It's so important to have players like a captain that isn't just going to, hide in a shell and be like, yeah, no, I don't really know what's going on. Whatever, like I'll just talk to them after the game. It is about being in tune with your locker room, knowing what to say, when to say it, how to say it, and answering those hard questions. And I really feel like the 2 of them they did that last year, and they did it this off season too when they were doing their interviews. I think that both of them have demonstrated strong leadership qualities. I feel like Weegar is definitely a very well-respected voice in the room. I feel like him and Andersson just go hand in hand because of that energy that they bring. Those non-tangible leadership qualities that you can't measure, that don't always reflect to on-ice performance, but they matter behind closed doors. To me, Huberdeau is someone that I would consider naming captain. Like, if you asked me 6 months ago, I would say Huberdeau. He has been a fantastic mentor to Jacob Pelletier in the few short months that they've been acquainted. Peltz just did an interview and he talked about how him and Huberdeau play hockey together once a week. And like during the off season, and how it's like playing hockey with your idol and getting to work with your idol every day that he gets to, work with him. And I'm not saying that you should have like this it factor about you as a captain, but you do have to, your name has to mean something. Like, I'm not just going to go out here and name, I don't know, like some random fourth liner, a captain. I'm going to name someone that has proven themselves to the organization and has stepped up to the plate. And I really do think that Huberdeau, Weegar, and Andersson have all done that. I mean, Mackenzie Weegar is basically part of the reason why why they're getting a new arena, right? That was like one of the first things he said when he got to Calgary was, oh yeah, no, it's time for a new arena or something along those lines. Weegar is someone, again, that just keeps his nose to the grindstone and he's going. He doesn't let outside noise distract him. He will talk to anyone post game and say, this is what went on. I will answer any of your questions. And he, again, did that this offseason, going on a podcast and sharing about how bad things really were in the locker room and how Daryl Sutter was screaming at these guys and swearing at them. And Backlund had to like basically get it in his face, and they would have screaming matches with each other. That's not a healthy environment. Like, yes, it's going to happen in a competitive environment, but for it to happen continuously, that is not good. And having someone that is that guy that's going to go to bat for you regardless, it's important. It does. I don't want to say it like makes you an outsider, but it does put you on a different level because you command respect. People want to hear what you have to say. And people go to you because they care about your feedback and they value your opinion. Both Huberdeau and Weegar have just really, again, won over the hearts of the city of Calgary and Flames fans. And I would be remiss not to say that they would be in the mix for things. Regardless of who they choose, it's going to be the right decision. I just would be shocked if it's not one of these three. Because, again, I don't see Backlund re-signing, regardless of what Huska says. I don't see that happening. I think that would have happened by now if he was interested and we would have a captain. And I think that those three players are ones that have stepped up and said what they've needed to say this offseason and even going back through the season last year. Obviously, I would say Jacob Markstrom, but we know that goalies aren't captains. So, you have to just embrace it for what it is and know that the Calgary Flames are trusting management and their coaching staff to make this decision. And it is not Murray Edwards sitting in his, I don't know, lavish house going like, ooh, who could it be? Who could it be? I just picture like Mr. Burns or something from The Simpsons. But that's all for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames as we finally had something new to talk about. And hopefully we continue to get some crumbs through the rest of the off season here. So I'm here for you 3 times a week. This week, 4 times, 4 episodes, because I love y'all so much. But make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you're getting your podcasts, and of course on YouTube as well. Free 99 across the board. And leave a nice little review and a 5-star rating. And I will catch you next time.